10th, 2026, and I'm calling to order the Placerville City Council and Placerville Public Financing Authority meeting. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Could we please call roll?
Councilmember Carter.
Present.
Councilmember Clarici.
Here.
Mayor Gottberg.
Here.
Vice Mayor No.
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Here.
Great. We have no ceremonial matters tonight, so we're moving on to item number 4, closed session report. City Attorney Ibrahimi.
Thank you, Mayor Gottberg. The council did meet in closed session tonight on one item. There was no public comment in advance, and the council provided direction to staff.
Right. We're going to move on to item number 5, adoption of the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Right. Moving on to item number 6, announcements, presentations to the public. 6.1, brief comments by the City Council. I'll start with Councilmember Yarbrough.
I have none tonight.
Carter.
I have none tonight.
Vice Mayor No.
I have none.
Councilmember Clarici.
It's not an announcement. Councilmember No and I and some volunteers and some city staff participated in a cleanup of a homeless camp under Main Street, Placerville Drive, where the bridges are. And thank you to everybody that participated. Lots of trash. It's a long subject and not really don't want to get too deep into it here. I was amazed about one thing, and that is how much clothing is thrown away. I expected to find, what I found was a lot of trash, but I also didn't think, I pulled clothing out of Hangtown Creek and out of trash things that were usable. If you'd have taken them home and washed them, you could have used them again, and yet they've been thrown away. And what was a little dispiriting was, that probably came from some very well-meaning person who donated it to some closet somewhere, and it was given to this person, and then they literally probably just tossed it or dropped it or didn't care. There's no answer to this problem, but it is really, everybody should try cleaning up a homeless camp once in their life. It is incredible to me. There was too much stuff in the creek, and the creek is still a little high, so it was so wet you couldn't really move it out from the brambles. So there's still quite a bit of stuff left in the creek, but I don't know how many garbage trucks, dump trucks we pulled out of there. Four dump trucks worth, city dump trucks went to the dump. Thankfully, there were people that helped, and so we got a lot of work done in about 2.5 or 3 hours. So it was very good that way. So anyway, that was my comment. Thank you.
Great. I have nothing else to add to tonight under this item. Would anybody like to comment on our comments? Great, I see none. We'll move on to the consent calendar, item number 7. Any council member want to pull an item from consent? I see none. Would any member of the public like to comment on items on our consent calendar? All right, I'll bring it back to the council for a motion.
Move consent calendar.
Second? I'll second the consent calendar.
Yeah, great. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Carter.
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici.
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Aye.
Vice Mayor No.
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to item number 8, public comment, non-agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on our agenda tonight. That is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. You will be limited to 3 minutes. Would any member of the public like to comment on things not on our agenda?
Yes. Greg Rizak, Golden History Association. As you know, we're putting on an event for the wagon train arrival. And part of that event is the entertainment. And we have the Hangtown Marshals as some of our entertainment. They're going to be working out of the Carey House. We would like to station them for performance down in front of El Dorado Savings on Sacramento Street, where there's police presence and a confined area. We're going to have the kids zone in the courthouse parking lot at the other end of the street. So these guys perform, they use guns. We need Old West gunfights, part of their skits. They've tried using their fingers and going bang, 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 and it just didn't have the same effect. So with that said, I have Jay here. He's going to explain the safety part of it and what they do.
Howdy, I'm Jay Sterling, also known as Alias, Marshall Alias. I had my first gunfight. I'm nervous.
Go ahead.
I'm nervous too.
Yeah.
Nobody's shooting at me. My first cowboy reenactment on Main Street in front of the bell tower in 1975. Been at this for 51 years. We had the Apple Hill Gang in those days, and that lasted up until about 1988. And we discovered that we were down to 3 cowboys, and it's tough having a gunfight with 3 cowboys. So we decided, Buck looked at me. Buck Kolstad was my partner. He and I worked together running gunfights and gunfight groups. Looked at me one afternoon and said, we ought to start a new group. And we ought to name them Hangtown Marshals. And we started out with 3 members. We are now 23 marshals strong, 5 ladies of Hangtown strong. And out of all those years, I have not seen, or we have not had, a gun incident. We had injuries, but that was because we weren't quite the stuntmen we thought we were. That didn't work so good. The security, I've spent 20 years as a probation officer, so I'm tuned into safety and sticking with rules and so forth when it comes to that stuff. Ammunition, ammunition, ammunition is, I am in charge of the ammunition. It doesn't leave my person until we go to a show. We even have ammo boxes that will not take a live round. Our blanks will fit in here, a live round will not. And we go through a lot of rounds. Our reloaders have been marshals themselves. And I take this to our shows in a padlock box. We have the sergeant at arms, checks every gun before a show, end the belt for live ammo. Ammo is dispersed at the beginning of the show, when we reload through the show, and then we have another inspection and gun check after the show.
Great.
We
Great.
have insurance.
Could you just wrap up pretty quick
Oh,
your remaining
okay.
comments?
Wow, okay. Anyway, we would like to go on doing what we're doing. We have the paperwork to back us up, like I said, the insurance and license and so forth and so on. We would like to go on. I've been gunfighting on Main Street for 51 years. And like I said, without an injury, without an incident. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Rogers. My son is Kelly Rogers, who had the skate shop in town, starting out at the little shop at the fairgrounds, moving to 103 Main Street. I also know he was on your Parks Commission, I think, for a couple of years. My son sadly died on March 1st, and I just wanted to come here to honor him because he deserves it. He did a lot for the kids in this community. when they closed Joe's, when the fairgrounds got sick of the kids being not respecting what they were given, he lobbied with the council, the Board of Supervisors, the Placerville Police, the sheriffs, and the board and the Office of Education, the school district, to work together and to get the park back open. And he saved that park, in my opinion, for the future kids of this town. We've lived here a long time, 50 years. I started my career with the city in '78 with the Placerville Fire Department as the secretary of the fire chief and retired from El Dorado County Fire. I just want everybody to know what a wonderful human being, and some of you, Chief Wren knows, Chief Cordero knew him, I believe. Dave might have known, I'm not sure, because I don't recognize anybody up there except Dave Warren. And, but I just want to honor my son. He was smart, he was articulate, he was funny. He loved this town. The shop, after COVID, just never got back to where it was, and he closed it, I believe, in 23, the latter part of 23. But he was ready to move on, but he still stayed involved with the skating community. So I just wanted to let you all know that I think Kelly needs to be remembered by a lot of people in this community for what he did for the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry for your loss and for the loss to our community. I did know Kelly as well, and he was a great member of the community. Are there any other comments on our open public comment? All right. Do we have any written communications? Item 8.2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 3 letters were received regarding the water and wastewater rate increases. Copies are on the back table for the public, if anybody's interested in seeing them. Thank you.
All right. We have no items pulled from the consent calendar, so we're going to move on to item number 10, ordinances. 10.1, consideration of zoning ordinance amendment 25-03, Title 10, Section 10-4-17, sign regulations to allow regulated A-frame sandwich bore signs in the Central Business District zone and finding that the project is exempt from CEQA. Ms. Kendrick.
Good evening, Mayor Gottberg, Vice Mayor and members of the City Council. Carol Kendrick, Development Services Director, presenting item 10.1, COA 25-03, regarding code amendments to allow regulated A-frames or sandwich board signs in the Central Business District, commonly referred to as the CBD. And just a quick housekeeping note, the zone is Central Business District, not Commercial Business District, though both abbreviations are the same. Sorry, that was a previous jurisdiction, CBD, in my brain. As background, our current sign ordinance adopted in 2002 prohibits temporary freestanding signs like A-frames to prevent visual clutter, hazards, and obstructions in the public's right-of-way. However, in February 2024, the City Council directed staff to explore revisions to support downtown businesses amid increasing unauthorized use on Main Street. This amendment creates a limited exception for these signs on public sidewalks in the Central Business District, modeled after similar regulations in the historic downtowns like Grass Valley, while preserving our Gold Rush heritage and ensuring safety. The purpose of this is threefold: enhance economic opportunities for our Central Business District merchants through affordable temporary promotions, maintain downtown's historic and aesthetic character, and prioritize public safety, including ADA accessibility and unobstructed pedestrian flow. Key provisions include requiring an annual sign permit for $50, with applications covering design, placement, and the indemnity clause. Limits are 1 sign per building at a time, or up to 2 for 2 buildings with more than 4 tenants. When we have 2 or 3, it would be 1 sign as well. Allowing rotation under a shared permit for multi-tenant businesses. Signs are capped at 6 square feet per side, 24 inches wide, made of durable, non-plastic materials like wood or metal, no lights or digital elements. Placement must be within 12 inches of the building facade, ensuring a 48-inch clear pedestrian path per ADA and ProWAG standards. Signs are displayed only during business hours, must be stable and maintained, and owners bear responsibility for any issues. A 90-day grace period post-adoption allows compliance. This item does align with our general plans, economic development, and historic preservation goals, and it complies with the 2025 Fire Code and is exempt from CEQA under the common sense exemption and Class 5 for minor land use changes. No environmental impacts are anticipated. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on January 6th. The staff report did incorporate feedback on boundaries, obstacles, and content, and recommended approval by a vote of 3-0 with 1 absent and 1 abstention via Resolution 26-01. At that meeting, we did receive comments from Kathy Lishman, Michael Drobish, some merchants on Main, Sue Rodwin, Alan Ming, Tony Wendell, James Marquez at prior meetings, plus additional input from Kathy Lishman on February 24th. Staff does recommend conducting the public hearing, determining the CEQA exemption, and introducing and waiving the first reading of the ordinance as attached. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from staff, or sorry, from council at this time?
Yeah, I just got one. Section 6, Part E says the property/sign owner will be solely responsible for any injuries or damages arising from the placement of the sign. Are we making sure that we are contacting the property owner if this ordinance goes through so they are aware of this?
Yes, so with enforcement, we would start with the property owner, but we'll also notify the tenant as well.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Any other questions at this time? Yeah, I have one recommended revision, and I'll state it now, so if the members of the public, it's on item number 3, size, where it says each sign can be no bigger than a maximum of 6 square feet with a maximum width of 24 inches. I'd like to limit the height to basically 3 feet by 2 feet, so a maximum height of 36 inches and maximum width of 24 inches. Otherwise, you could have like a 1 foot wide, 6 foot tall sign, which I don't think, technically, I don't think anybody would probably do that, but like the way it's written would allow for that. So I guess I'd just like to limit both the width and the height, which gets you to the same 6 square feet. It just puts a height limitation as well as a width limitation on it. So you're just going to add the 36 inches? Yeah, basically 2 feet wide by 3 feet high is the maximum that I'm like recommending would be changed on that. So I will put that out there in case some member of the public would like to comment on that recommended change versus the just saying 6 square feet with 2 feet maximum width, which would allow like a, 18 by 4 foot or 18 inch by 4 foot high, there's some higher signs than if you go narrower. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. So at this time, if you would like to comment on this item, please come up and give us your comments on our sign ordinance.
Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville. Good evening, City Council. I think this is an improvement over what we've got now, because right now it's a mess out there. And this would at least put some limits on it. I personally liked when we didn't have any, they were not allowed. And I'd like to emphasize the fact that if you can't have the 48-inch walkway, then no signs would be permitted. And I think that's a good idea because right now, like I said, it's a mess. So this is an improvement. And I like Mayor Gottenberg's idea of 3 feet tall, 2 feet wide. That's the max, the end. So, and that would bring them to some uniformity too. I still like the idea of if you want to advertise, put something in your window and let people do window shopping like we used to do.
Good evening, Kathy Lishman. I do agree with Mayor Gottberg's suggestion and with Sue that I liked it better when there were no A-boards. As I'd mentioned before, excuse me, we have such beautiful windows in Placerville that when you're passing by the A-boards, you don't really notice them. I believe in following the rules, and the rules that the city has are the ordinances. And for some reason, in the recent past, the city council and the administration has decided not to enforce the sign ordinance as it relates to A-boards. And what happens is it grows and grows, and someone else does it and someone else does it. Then it gets out of control like you have now. There always was a reason that the economy was bad or we didn't have enough staff. I think you're opening up a can of worms with all of these rules you have now. And the same thing is true for the illegal vacation home rentals. The economy is bad or there isn't enough staff. Ordinances are meant to be followed. So now you're changing the sign ordinance to allow A-boards with rules. Everyone needs to follow the new rules, and I hope the city will enforce them. Complaint-driven code enforcement doesn't work, and it just won't work for the city. So I hope we have a code enforcer. For years, there was not a code enforcer. Then there was a part-time code enforcer. Now you have a full-time code enforcer. And I don't think you can just say complaint-driven only when it's not fair to everybody. Thank you.
Are there any further public comments on our sign ordinance? All right, I see none, so I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. I like the suggestion. I mean, consistency has been our goal, and having them be consistently 2 by 3, I think, is a great idea. I hadn't even thought about somebody getting crazy and doing a 6-foot tall, 1-foot sign, but it does make sense to have the specifications be consistent for everybody, and that's our goal, is to make it look good and consistent. So that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, and I'm fine with a smaller sign. I just, if somebody wants an 18-inch wide by 2-foot tall, I just don't want it any larger than that. I'm fine with
I move that we accept the staff, I move staff's recommendation as amended to the 2 by 3s.
Yeah.
Maximum.
And the central business district.
Oh, that's right, I forgot about that. And the central business district, in the central business district.
Does that meet everything? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will second that.
we had all the bits.
All right, we have a first and a second. I'll take a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
No.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. We will go ahead and move on now to our public hearings. Item 11.1. Public hearing of the city and the Placerville Public Finance Authority with respect to the ultimate loss regarding the Placerville Public Financing Authority revenue bonds of 1992 Series A issued pursuant to an indenture dated as of March 15th, 1992 by and between the authority and MUFG Union Bank and the Placerville Public Financing Authority revenue bonds of 1992 Series C issued pursuant to an indenture dated as of June 1st, 1992, by and between the authority and the original trustee, and proposed instructions to the Argent Institutional Trust Company as successor trustee under the indentures as to the allocation of final distribution of payments to the holders of the bonds and the payment of the fees and expenses to the successor trustee. Mr. Warren.
Good evening, Mayor Gottberg, members of the council. So I recognize this is a highly technical staff report, and so I offer to you a Reader's Digest version that's a little more, it's easier to digest. So in the early 1990s, China Woods, Golden Eagle, Quartz Mountain Housing Subdivision, and Hangtown Village and Stagecoach Square commercial subdivisions were proposed developments at that time. Each development was conditioned to construct certain public infrastructure improvements such as streets, curbs, gutters, storm drains, water, and sewer lines. As a way of raising capital for the needed public improvements, the developers engaged the city in issuing Mark Ruse bonds to finance public improvements on their behalf. The repayment of the bond proceeds and interest expense would be made through assessments placed on the property tax bills for each affected parcel. The Placerville Public Finance Authority, which is a subset of the City Council, issued the Mark Ruse bonds, sold the bonds in the open market, and established the associated property tax assessments in 1992. There were 2 series bonds issued, including Series A, which included $7.7 million in proceeds, and Series C, which totaled $3,185,000 in proceeds. The Series A bonds were used for 3 residential subdivisions, including China Woods, Golden Eagle, Quartz Mountain, and 2 commercial subdivisions we mentioned earlier, as well as refinancing the city's existing sewer revenue bonds, existing bonds for the Oak Knoll residential subdivision. The Series C bonds were used for the Golden Eagle and Quartz Mountain residential subdivisions. The developers and their contractors built the public improvements and were paid from the proceeds of the bonds on a reimbursement basis. The bonds were issued in 1992 when the state of California was experiencing a severe recession and housing market was in a slump. In the early years following the bond issues, the residential parcels sold slowly and there were very few developed, resulting in the developers having to pay the annual property tax assessments on most of the parcels. Over time, the assessments for many residential parcels became delinquent due to non-payment, most likely because the developers did not have the funds to pay the assessments. The bonds did have reserves, however, the reserves were exhausted early on due to non-payment of some of the assessments. In 1996, 1997, and 1999, the city obtained judgments of foreclosure on the defaulted properties, thereby clouding the title on these properties until the delinquent assessments were paid. The county tax sales for the defaulted properties were unsuccessful for several years, with no buyers due to tax assessments owed on such properties, including principal, interest, penalties, penalty interest, far exceeding the fair value of those properties at that time. The Series C bonds went into payment default as of March 13, 1998, meaning the bondholders were paid less than what was shown on the bond amortization schedule. Similarly, the Series A bonds went into payment default in September 15, 2003, after depletion of the applicable reserve funds. The default by these properties also resulted in additional sums representing penalties, penalty interest added to the amounts owed to each defaulted parcel. Except for the 3 residential subdivision, China Woods, Quartz Mountain, Golden Eagle, all of the other projects and properties subject to the bonds have paid the assessments and are no longer subject to those bonds. Between 2000 and 2009, the city facilitated sales of several defaulted parcels following appraisals and waivers of all the portions of the penalties and penalty interest, resulting in distributions of a portion of the principal and interest going to the bondholders. The final maturity date of the authority bonds was September 15, 2012. Which was when the bondholders should have been paid in full. However, there were delinquent assessments on several of the residential parcels. At some point after the defaults had occurred, a company known for working out bond defaulted subdivisions called Tower Investments, LLC, acquired approximately 12 subdivided parcels and the remainder of parcels, approximately 20 acres, in the Quartz Mountain subdivision, all of which properties were in default. Sometime later, Tower began acquiring outstanding Series A bonds and Series C bonds from existing bondholders. Tower obtained an independent appraisal for fair value of all the properties owned by it. The appraised value determined that the fair market value for the finished lots was $810,000 even, and the undeveloped lots of 20 acres, $580,000. Pursuant to the indentures, the city and the trustee determined to accept Tower's tender of approximately $1.4 million of Series A and Series C bonds it held that the city would cause the assessment liens on Towers properties to be released. In other words, it was a non-cash transaction. They bought the bonds, which had value, and they basically said, we'll forfeit the bonds in order to pay down the assessments. The foreclosure judgments against Towers properties were satisfied with a waiver of interest, penalties, and penalty interest, and Tower paid the city and the successor trustee $150,000 in funds contemplated in the workout proposal. Pursuant to a notice dated November 28, 2022 of the proposed workout to bondholders, the successor trustee agent institutional trust company, or Argent Institutional Trust, AIT, notified bondholders that it would follow the written direction and instruction letter dated October 26, 2022 from Tower. No objectives from bondholders were received. Under the workout, the city accepted Tower's tender of Series A bonds in the amount of $431,857.20 and its Series C bonds in the amount of $1,025,000, canceled such bonds and associated assessments, and accepted receipt of $150,000 to be distributed to the bondholders in accordance with the provisions of the bond indentures, including any provisions including successor trustee with charging lien or right of priority payment on account of its fee and expenses, including fees and expenses of its counsel, basically its attorneys. The county has held additional tax sales and remitted delinquent assessments to the city, which were sent to the successor trustee, consisting of $391,565.62, including earned interest, tax sale proceeds designated to Series A bonds, $548,398.48, including earned interest of tax sale proceeds to the Series C bonds. The current outstanding principal amounts for the Series A bonds was $1,010,000, and the current outstanding principal amount for the Series C bonds is $1,845,000 for a total of $2,855,000. Given the length of time since the default, the passage of the final maturity date of the bonds in 2012, and the efforts exhausted all legal remedies, staff recommends that the city declare an ultimate loss and distribute the remaining funds to the bondholders and the successor trustee for its remaining costs. If approved tonight, the $2,855,000 in outstanding bond principal would be written off, and $1,089,964, which is held by the successor trustee, would be distributed as shown on page 5 of the report. $939,964.10 would be paid as outstanding interest to the bondholders, and the $150,000 paid by Tower would be paid to the successor trustee for their counsel costs. If approved, there will be minimal costs associated with filing the acknowledgement satisfaction of judgment with the Superior Court and filing a notice of release of judgment and assessment lien to the county recorder for the properties with delinquent 1992 property tax assessments, which could be absorbed by the general fund. And tonight we have Stepan Haitian from Norton Rose Fulbright, your bond counsel, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the council at this time? Nope. All right, I will go ahead and open up this item for public hearing. Is there any member of the public that would like to come and speak on this item?
Sue Rodman, and I do have an interest in what this affects our city. So what does it all come down to? What does this mean, that out of our general fund we have to pay this amount of money? Or is this, I'm confused. I do not understand how this works. So I would like some clarification as to, bottom line, what does that mean to our city budget? Are we on the hook, and if so, for how much? And how is it supposed to be resolved?
Kathy Lishman. I get blamed for a lot of things, and maybe some of you are thinking I was on the city council when that was approved. And I have to tell you, I am the only person who voted no. It was a bad idea from the beginning. And I thought that the Hangtown Village Square was already built, but they were doing something with the funding there. And anyway, I thought I had to say something.
All right, anyone else want to comment on this item? All right, we'll go ahead and bring it back. We'll close the public hearing and bring it back, and we'll start as the city council first here.
I've asked Mr. Warren to clarify what this potentially is going to mean to us in terms of our costs, just to clarify the question from Sue.
Thank you, Mayor. So I don't have an exact cost to the city's general fund. I would, and Stepan, if you can help me, because there's going to be legal fees associated with this. I'm thinking probably somewhere between total, probably around $5,000 to $7,000. But correct me if I'm wrong. Yes. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
They would exceed that, but they would not get into, I don't think it would exceed 30 or 40, if my recollection is correct.
Going forward, prospectively, or?
Oh, this is total.
No.
Since the inception.
Prospectively, though, from today forward.
Oh, no, it could be less than 5 prospectively, yeah.
All right.
What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with that?
We're currently the city council.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's two resolutions before you.
Oh, that's right.
One is a resolution that is, the city council is being requested to adopt. It's a resolution of the city council of the city of Placerville determining an ultimate loss and providing instructions to successor trustee regarding allocation of final payments and payments of successor trustees' fees and expenses and actions related thereto.
I'll move that. I'll second. All right.
All right, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, and now we're going to move on as the Placerville Public Finance Authority.
So the resolution before the Finance Authority is a resolution of the Board of the Placerville Public Financing Authority determining an ultimate loss and providing instructions to successor trustee regarding allocation of final payments and payment of successor trustees, fees and expenses, and actions related thereto.
And I'll move our city attorney's explanation.
I will second that.
All right, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
So just really quickly, it's not council member,
Oh,
it's the Public Financing Authority member.
Public and Finance Authority member? Carter?
Aye.
Clarici?
Aye.
Yarbrough?
Aye.
No?
Aye.
Gottberg?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we are now going to adjourn the Placerville Public Finance Authority meeting and continue as the city council.
Yay.
So we're going to move on to item number 11.2. Consider approving new master parking citation fees effective May 11th, 2026. Ms. Tornicasa.
Good evening, Mayor Gottberg and City Council members. Tonight I'm presenting for your consideration a new master parking citation fees effective May 11th, 2026. With the strategic plan strategy of fiscal stability in focus, the purpose is to approve the revenue generation used to partially offset the cost of the police department's patrol division and the downtown parking program. So just some quick background. The City of Placerville's master parking citation fine schedule has not been updated since December of 2010, and it is not keeping up with the overall cost for the city to issue citations. Some quick discussion. Staff updated each of the applicable fines based on the anticipated costs, including personnel, supplies, and state pass-through court fees, which are $11. Staff also reached out and compiled a survey of fines collected by cities in the outlying areas. As you will see in attachment B, Placerville's proposed fines are not the highest, nor are they the lowest overall compared to fines collected by other surveyed cities. Please note that the City of Auburn and City of Jackson both communicated plans to update their citation fee schedule as well. As for budget impacts, the proposed master parking citation fine schedule was not included in the adopted fiscal year 25-26 budget. And if it was to be approved tonight, the fee increase of $29 per citation would generate approximately $7,000 in downtown parking program revenue. Tonight, I'm asking you to approve the fees as recommended by staff. I also just wanted to call out that there is a small typo on attachment A and B. It should be parking within 15 feet of a fire hydrant, not 15 inches. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the council?
I don't have any questions, but regarding 22521, parking on railroad tracks, we don't actually have any railroad tracks in the city of Placerville, so I was going to say, why wouldn't we get rid of something that doesn't pertain to us out of that? And with regards to the parking within 15 feet of the fire hydrant, I was just going to recommend where it's, feasible, there are curbs to paint curbs, because I know in front of my house, people park closer than 15 feet all the time because they don't know and it's not painted red, and it seems like an easy solution so that we don't have to give people tickets.
All right. I will go ahead and open it up to the public. Would any members of the public like to comment on our parking fees?
Sue Rodman again. You're hearing from me a lot today, I guess. I think that there's two reasons to have parking fines. One is to discourage illegal parking, and the other one is to cover the costs. I think we need to cover the entire cost, not partially cover the cost, but cover the cost. And some of the illegal parking is much more serious and presents a hazard to the public, requires additional law enforcement engagement, and needs to be a higher fine. These fines are pretty cookie cutter. And just adding $29 to the existing fine, I don't think achieves either one of those objectives. So I would like you to reconsider the freeway parking prohibition. Of course, you don't want to park on the freeway, and there should be more than a $71 fine for it. Parking in intersections is the same way. That should be something that is more than just a $71 fine. And parking in crosswalks, the same thing. Parking in safety zones. Parking within 15 feet of the fire station. For heaven's sakes, let's give our firefighters a break to be able to get out. Parking on the bridge, come on. Parking in posted fire lanes. I mean, all of these things present a hazard, and they should be more than a $71 fine. Vehicle abandonment, that's going to cause you a lot more trouble than just the fine that's listed here. And blocking intersections, I think, should be at least $200 fine. And the rest of these that they've got at $71 should go at least to $100. No parking, we've got red zones, white zones, and yellow zones where it's no parking. And they're all the same fine. No, they should be, the red zones are red because for a much more reason to prevent hazards. So they should have a much higher fine than $71. And parking in a manner that obstructs traffic, come on. Let's put a fine on it that makes people think twice about doing that. And parking with something that you've got a trailer or something attached to the back of your truck that sticks out in the traffic lane, that's more than a $71 fine. So let's take another look at these fines and make them so that they will actually be high enough to discourage people from these habitual parking problems that we end up with. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public on our parking citation fees? All right, I'll bring it back up to the council.
I was talking with these folks. My understanding, I don't get into fines and stuff too much in my professional life, but I do a little bit. And there has to be some nexus between what it costs you to do something and the fine. You could, if it costs you $70 to write a ticket and do whatever enforcement there is, you can't charge $170. You could, but then it might be challenged. You run into some issues of just like a nexus is, I guess, the right phrase for it. So there has to be some connection between what you're charging and what it actually costs you, which is what they've done. They've made an estimate of that. So I think there's a reason why these numbers are the way they are, and it's because of that issue. There was we wanted to charge a whole bunch of money. We had another discussion on an item at the previous meeting where it was like $500 for something we want to charge like $1,000, and we couldn't because it was actually fixed by law. So this is not exactly that, but it's kind of similar to that.
I was going to say, under certain circumstances, some of these fines, there could be court costs or other charges they may be charged because of it, so other costs. Yep.
Anybody want to make a motion on this then?
I'll move staff recommendation.
I think we had 2 requested revisions.
Oh, yes, with the revisions of
the railroads.
moving the railroad and correcting the 15 inches to 15 feet.
Yes. Then I will second that.
Great. We have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. Great. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 11.3. Consider approving an increase to the Main Street banner program fee from $200 to $388 effective May 11th, 2026. Mr. Nishihara.
Aloha. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Tonight before you is an increase in our Main Street banner program. For those of you who don't know or haven't seen it, it is on Main Street. The fee itself has not been increased since 2023, but by saving everybody me reading my report, I do want to just highlight a quick component of how enriched our downtown looks, having the banner there. It creates an atmosphere of downtown. You won't know it's there until it's not there. Let's put it that way. So there are some absolute cultural and historical pieces around creating that quintessential downtown. However, in order for us to do business, to be effective with the bottom line, to ensure that we're being fiscally responsible, it is advantageous of us to go ahead and adjust it based on the cost of doing business. And you have my report before you tonight. The cost will go from $200 to $388.50. I'm available for questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions from the council? No, I see none. I will go ahead and open this item up, I will open the public hearing for item 11.3. If there's any members of the public who want to comment, this is the time to do so.
Hi, Jenny Levitsky. I'm just curious how often the price increases, because since 2023 to 2026, it's not quite 3 years yet, depending on what time of year it got raised. It's almost double. So I'm wondering if that's a proposed every 2 years or every 3 years, going up by that much.
Yeah, we take all comments first, but any other member of the public want to comment on this item? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back up to the council. I don't know if there's any response to that folks want to make, but.
What was the cost before it was raised to 200? Did you run across that in your research?
In 2019, it was $100. In 2021, it was $125. In 2022, it was $150. And then in 2023, it was $200.
Okay.
Based on our calculations in regards to staffing fees, those were all direct costs. This is the first step that we're taking in regards to cost recovery and sustainability. So this will be the first year that we'll be including what those billable rates are. Moving forward, typically we take all of our programs and all of our services annually based on cost of living adjustments. So I don't foresee, I'm a gambling guy, I wouldn't put any money on it, but at the same time, based on where the market is and where we are to make sure, I don't foresee it doubling like this in the future. Not like the fuel, crude oil or anything.
Right, so this is just a cost recovery price. We're not like making money and putting money in the bank on this, no.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Just for a little more clarification for you for the report that we have, basically, for the contractor to put it up, it's $250. For the staff time, it's $138, hence we come covering our costs, if that helps you out.
Right. Would anybody like to make a motion if there's no further discussion?
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. Great, we're going to move on to item number 12, discussion and action items, 12.1. I do need to recuse myself from this item due to a economic interest because my company does work with Waste Collection, or Waste Connections of California, Inc. So I will be recusing myself at this time.
You know, a lot of places don't make them leave like
Okay, we're doing 12.1. Consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a new solid waste collection franchise agreement with Waste Connections of California Incorporated with a sunset date in 2043. Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Vice Mayor No, members of the council. So the latest agreement with El Dorado Disposal was originally established 32 years ago and includes several amendments and no longer meets the needs of both parties. Numerous services have been added over the years, some of which have not been memorialized in the agreement. A list of services provided by El Dorado Disposal are shown on pages 1 and 2 of the report. Over the past year, the city and Waste Connections have been in negotiations over the new franchise agreement. A copy of the latest draft, which is fairly kind of rough, but we're getting there, is included in the agenda packet. Tonight, Chris Brown, District Manager of El Dorado Disposal, is here to present the changes, proposed changes to the agreement. With that, I'll hand it over to Chris.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for giving me the time today, and before we jump in, I will just say we've been working on this for quite a while, so thank you, Dave, thank you, Dina, and Cleve as well, who's an old friend of the city. A lot of time has gone into this, so thank you, staff, for all your effort in doing this. Yeah, my intention today is to just provide some of the highlights that you guys will see in the draft agreement that's before you and kind of what will be changing in the proposed revised agreement. So before we get into all the details, I think, as Dave mentioned, just a brief overview of where we are currently. Dave mentioned the agreement originally established 32 years ago. That predates Waste Connections as well. So with Waste Connections, there was a first amendment to the agreement was executed in 2008. Obviously, since that time, there's been a lot of key updates and things that we've done since then through amendments, right? And when you do that through amendments, while they initiate good programs and get things into the contract, it also lengthens the agreement and makes it kind of ambiguous and hard to work through. So one of the key components of this is, and that you'll see in the updated and revised agreement, is one singular document. So taking all those amendments and all those initiatives that we've put in over the years and just revising it so that everything is in one document, really for clarity and ease to understand and read through and work through. Secondly, in this revised agreement, you'll see the incorporation of SB 1383 language. So for us, in layman's terms, that's California's initiative to put food waste in the green waste. So we have been executing this process since 2023, but just advising and tweaking some of the language to ensure that when it comes to Cal Recycle and what specifically some of the verbiage they want to see in the franchise agreement from a compliance standpoint, that we get some of that put in here and memorialized what we're already doing and what we have been doing since 2023. We will be transitioning to a quarterly reporting model. So currently we do some reports monthly, we do some quarterly, and really we're getting the city a bunch of information, and sometimes we're just getting it to them in various documents. And so the idea here is we give you guys one quarterly report, or the city. So when Dave brings it to you, or when we bring it to the city, it's all in one document. So everything, all the reports that we do are now in one document, and we can look through performance standards and waste metrics and compliance metrics and all of that in one document quarterly, which also helps look at trends seasonally and things of that nature versus various documents submitted at different times. And then, lastly, part of this franchise, or the amendment and revision is, as Dave mentioned, a 10-year term extension with the city of Placerville. With that comes a fresh look for the city, but also a unique opportunity for city involvement, specifically with the Art Commission, to be able to upgrade some of these Main Street containers that Eldorado Disposal partnered with the city to get the original ones that are out there now. And so just updating those really to benefit the city and get a unique opportunity for them, but also provide a cleaner environment. Right now, inside those city containers, it gets pretty nasty, and really it all ends up as trash. With these new containers, 2 separate receptacles, much harder to pilfer through, I'll say, and also gives the opportunity for local art team to kind of design these wraps that you see here. So the ones you see on the screen, we rolled these out last year, I want to say Q1 or Q2, and Cleve and team and staff worked to get these designs. So obviously, this is one set, and I believe we have about 30 through the city, 30 sets throughout the city, throughout Main Street, and facilities that we would be upgrading. So whether we chose to go with all of one design or parse that out. And then on the sides of these containers, you can't see this here, but there's also some slatted things. So whether that's opportunity for advertisement or events or posters and things, those can be moved in and out depending on seasonal events or things of that nature. So I want to thank you guys for the opportunity. We value our partnership tremendously. Again, thank you, Dave, and happy to facilitate or answer any questions should you guys have some.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the council? No? Okay, thank you.
I'll just make one quick comment. I mean, I know one thing that I've heard from my constituents and experience personally is that we'd love to see a little bit of an expansion of the hazmat hours at the MRF. I know when I try and take paint, and I end up driving around with it for 2 weeks because I don't catch that 2-hour window that hazmat drop-off is open. So I'm not sure it's part of this agreement, but if it is, we'd love to see a little bit of an expansion in hazmat collection at the MRF.
Sure, yeah. Just quickly, we are open for longer than 2 hours, so maybe we're just missing the windows there, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday during all operational hours of the transfer station, 8 to 4 or 5. But to your point, we can look at that. There is one, so our household hazardous waste facility operating hours are actually part of our franchise agreement with El Dorado County. So should we choose to expand that, we have to work with them to do so. But we're happy to look at that. You know, you're not the only person we're hearing from regarding that. So we are looking at that, whether that's we can accept some stuff in greater hours and some not. There's a labor and disposal component to that. I will, offer, just quickly too for public knowledge, household hazardous waste, specifically disposing of that over the past 3 years has climbed astronomically. We used to, somewhere in the $15,000 to $20,000 range for disposal monthly. We're closer to about $50,000 a month now for disposals. So definitely hear you, and we'll be looking at options there, and we'll follow up when we have those. So thank you.
Okay. I don't know if this is a gray paint. Y'all collect old paint. What do you do with old paint?
So all of our paint, non-lead based paint.
Of course.
Basically gets bulked, so we put it into a 55-gallon drum.
Yeah.
And then vendor comes in, hauls that 55-gallon drum out, processed further at their facility.
So is that like so does the vendor make money, or he just charges you to take it away?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not super familiar with
That's fine.
Clean Earth's process, but I know we're charged a hefty amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason being.
Yeah, we're going somewhere else with this.
Yeah, the reason being is one of the things when you get to clean up a homeless camp is you also get to look at a lot of graffiti, and gray paint is the best way to just sort of quickly go over graffiti. And if you mix all the paints together, it turns gray for the most part. And so we've been trying to figure out a way to get some essentially free gray paint.
I will notate. I will see.
This could go right next to the
creatively to do so.
Creative recycling here.
Yeah.
One thing too, Councilmember Clarici, that you mentioned during your homeless cleanup earlier, textiles. So you'll hear from us again later this year on textiles. But textiles are a big initiative for us.
Right.
We I'm going to say installed textile recovery late in 2024, really had a whole year of it in 2025. Saw great progress in that matter, so we're going to continue that initiative. We've got textile recycling at our transfer station, as well as at our 3 redemption centers that do CRV redemption. So heavy material, we could get into landfill economics here, but doesn't dispose well. So yeah, getting it out of the trash is big. Happy to help there.
Yeah, that thought crossed my mind at about 2 hours and 27 minutes, and we weren't going to go back into the garbage cans. But yeah, after I left, and I was thinking, yeah, this could be recycled, something to think about. Anyway, yeah, gray paint.
We'll take a note.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If we have no more questions from the council, we will open this to public comment. Oh, sorry. Our city manager has a comment.
Could I make a few more comments?
Yeah.
Vice Mayor? So one other change, it wasn't included in the presentation, but currently Thanksgiving, they pick up, El Dorado Disposal picks up, and they asked if they could defer a day, kind of like Christmas. And I said, you know what, our staff has the day off, but anyway, if you're okay with that, that's included in there as well.
Yeah.
And then as far as the trash enclosures, we have a picture of our current trash enclosures, which when they're clean, they look great. They're attractive. However, you may notice there's 2 cans there, one for recycling, one for trash, and there's gaps in between where the hole is, and the outer cage and the cans. So what happens is people drop stuff, and if it catches a little wind, it flies down in between, which makes it unsightly and it's hard to clean. Also, if you have a beverage, you see there's caps there. A lot of times what happens is people hit the cap and then it splashes, and so with the big belly, which on the next, it actually, can you go to the next slide, please, Natalie? Oop, that one. So it has a door that opens up. You can drop it in without it. If you have a drink, it just drops in. So you notice the top, and that hasn't been clean in a while. It's pretty clean.
Yeah.
So these are the big bellies, and there's an opportunity, again, as Chris indicated, they're willing to replace 30 of those decorative trash containers with these. And there's an opportunity to engage the art community. As Chris mentioned, there's $150,000 included if the council chose to approve the agreement with the 10-year extension to 2043. And that would pay for the containers themselves, as well as additional monies to commission art. And the panels, potentially, if the council wanted to go with panels that could be replaced. You could actually, periodically change the art or messaging on the containers. So, let's see. Go ahead.
Dave, if I could, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. One other, I think, important component on the big bellies is if you notice on the old containers, What actually keeps them shut is a lock that you can see. Frankly, I can't tell you how many of those we've replaced over the
Thanks
years
for reminding me,
because
yeah.
they're broken off one way or the other.
Mhm.
And the new ones, it's an actual keyed system that's flush. So another good component of that.
So, thanks, Chris. So, yeah, they're easier to, remove the trash, they're easier to clean, they're just overall, and they're fairly attractive. They're a little more contemporary, but we haven't had any complaints so far. So, the containers, staff has engaged Arts and Culture El Dorado and the Placerville Public Arts Committee as a potential opportunity to look at art on this. So after the Planning Commission has an opportunity to evaluate the containers, the City Council could consider issuing an RFP for commissioned art that could be placed on panels on the proposed Big Belly containers. The Placerville Public Arts Committee is very interested in the possibility of partnering with the city and reviewing and recommending the proposed art for the Big Belly containers. We already mentioned the extension. So with that, staff recommends to authorize the city manager to, actually be in concert with the city attorney to negotiate the remainder of the agreement. The deal points that we talked about are all incorporated. It's just there's some finer points we need to review. So.
Right, so just for clarification, everyone, we're not making a recommendation to finalize this agreement. We're recommending for you guys to work out all the details, and then it'll still come back for finalization.
Yep.
Okay, I will open this for public comment. Any questions from the public?
Terry Lamanchik, Arts and Culture El Dorado. I just want to underscore what Dave said about the Placerville Public Art Committee, some of whom are here tonight, being very enthusiastic and excited about possibly working on this as the committee's first project, if the timing works out that way. It's a great project for public art, and we'd love to dive in.
Great, thank you.
These are certainly more attractive than the green ones we have now because trash does get in between the cans and the structure that they're in, and it's pretty ugly. So these would look a lot nicer along our Main Street and maybe take up just a little less space because those green things are huge.
Thank you.
Kathy Lishman, I support the idea of the art on the trash cans, and Mr. Warren working with Terry Lamanchik to develop an RFP. And I'm very interested in the composting program, and I was wondering if you could say how well it's going for several reasons.
Really well.
Someone picked up some of the compost for me and brought it to my house, and it's lovely. Another reason, when I went out one night to put in my frozen food in my yard waste, I fell and broke my wrist. So I'm very attached to that project. And tonight when I go home, it'll be light still, and I'll go out and put my frozen food in the yard waste containers. But I'm interested in knowing how it's going. I hope it's going well.
Thank you.
It's a hit.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. I appreciate your participation, but not in that regard. So, yes, quick update on the compost program. So you'll hear more about this later in the year as well. In short, it's going very well. We have, actually the city had funds to put a structure over the compost last year, so we executed that. So the compost now doesn't turn into a muddy mess in the winter months. It does stay dry. To much of our surprise, or maybe just mine, when we initially started this, I thought there would be a very seasonal component to this. It is year-round. Folks are in that bunker almost daily, and we continue to bring it back. So having a lot of great success. There's a compliance piece with the state. that's been achieved now for 2 years in a row with the city and well on our way this year as well. So all things good in that manner. And we are, exploring and kind of actively doing direct-to-customer delivery as well. So that's kind of opened another door. So, direct-to-customer delivery meaning in bulk, right? If you need 7 tons of it. Not everybody needs that much, but for those who are interested, yes, please contact us or reach out. Program is going very well. Appreciate you asking. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any other comments or questions from the public?
And as Ms. Lishman said, yes, it's free. So,
yeah.
It's free. That's what's great about it.
Okay. Seeing no one else, we will bring this back to the council for other questions, comments, discussions. No, I'm excited about the art aspect of this. Art is what makes a unique downtown. So I think that will be a good addition. And I just want to thank Waste Management. You've always been a really good partner, and we appreciate that. With that, do we have a motion?
I will move staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Can I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg will be noted as recused. Thank you.
Okay, can someone get the mayor, please?
Someone get the mayor. You can start it. We haven't started.
All right. So we are now going to move on to item 12.2, acknowledge and file the fiscal year 2025-2026 mid-year budget reported as presented. Ms. Tornincasa.
Good evening, Mayor Gottberg and City Council members. Tonight I'll be walking you through mid-year budget. So first we're going to review the local economy, local economic indicators, and then we're going to evaluate the budget for the general fund and all of their operating funds to make sure that the city is living within our means. Okay, the first indicator is unemployment rates. So over the last 12 months, the city of Placerville's unemployment went from 3.9% in January to 5.5% in December, and that's illustrated with the purple bar. When compared regionally, on average, the state of California and the city of Placerville unemployment was 5.5% in 2025, compared to El Dorado County and Sacramento at 5%. So there was an increase in unemployment rates. When we look at Placerville's historical unemployment rates and do a deeper dive, 2025 is illustrated with the lighter blue bar. And again, from January, we went from 3.9 to December, 5.5. When compared to last year, 2025 unemployment was up 11 out of the 12 months. The second indicator is real estate sales in the greater Placerville area. So this really just goes over the number of homes sold per month. And in 2025, 18 homes were sold per month on average, compared to 16 homes in 2024. When you look at 2025 home sales, they outperformed 8 out of the 12 months. And total home sales in 2025 were 212 versus 193 in 2024. So there was a 19 additional homes sold in 2025. So when we look at the average price of each home for 2025, it was $550,000, which was actually an increase from last year, which was $529,000. So home prices were up 7 out of the 12 months year over year. And when we look at the third and final indicator, we look at CIP, cost of goods and services, kind of our inflation trend. CIP averaged 3.02% through August versus last year, which was 3.27. So it showed that inflation was going down. However, when you compare February, inflation in 2025 was down compared to 24, so is April and June, but we are seeing an uptick in August. And unfortunately, we weren't able to report in October due to the federal government shutdown. So overall, we are seeing a little bit of an increase in inflation with our latest value at 3.31%. Now I'd like to hand it off to Mr. Nishihara to go over recreation program attendance.
Thank you, Natalie. I won't go through the whole chart, but I'll kind of touch a little bit on the total starting at the top with Goldbug. If you can kind of see from July to December of 2025, there was a bit of an increase up at Goldbug in regards to our daily tours and group rates. They've done an excellent job up there being consistent with a lot of the group tours. We have a lot of returning visitors, which is fantastic. Aquatics, we can talk a little bit about, primarily between the difference of July and December of 24 to July and December of 25. In all fairness, I genuinely believe a lot of that increase had to do with the fact that we were talking about it a lot, and it gained a lot of traction. So don't forget the pool is open this summer. We're moving that way. So that's kind of where we are with those pieces. We did see a little bit of a dip in some of our youth and adult special interest classes, primarily because of the bandwidth and some of our staffing. A lot of those are specialty components in regards to MOUs and agreements that we deal with different customers. We do have, like, for example, a ukulele class. For those of you who are interested in learning the ukulele or guitar or Zumba, those are specialty classes that we would definitely like to delve into, which may or may not include pickleball in the next coming season. But our staff are very optimistic for the summer, and I'm available for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Dennis. So we're actually going to skip through the next couple slides. They're pretty self-explanatory, but if you do have any questions, definitely ask staff at the end of the presentation. But since we report on building and planning stats monthly, we'll just skip through these slides. And I will next hand it off to Ms. Savage to go over engineering permits.
Thanks, Natalie. So for engineering encroachment permits, it looks like in the numbers it went down this year, but I will say our revenue actually went up because we changed the structure of how we were dealing with a lot of encroachment permits over the last year. We were allowing some multiple locations to be added on one permit instead of having individual permits, just to save a lot of paperwork, but we still were requiring the fee was paid because we do have to review the traffic control situation at each individual location. So we were still same amount of fee, less amount of permits. Next slide, Natalie. And transportation permits over the last year held pretty steady. Nothing real significant to say there. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, it's time to dive into budget. So Bradley Burns sales tax, that makes up 1% of the 8.25% of sales tax. It's our most significant local economic indicator. It makes up 56% of our total general fund revenue. City of Placerville has always had strong per capita sales tax for 2024, it was 582. I will say that went down slightly from 604 last year. And Placerville currently ranked number 41 out of 540 agencies, which again is slightly down year over year. We ranked number 37 last year. When we look at quarter ended September 2025 versus the previous, we actually had an increase on the cash basis of 84,000 or 5.6%. But when you look at adjustments, we were actually down 14,880 or 0.9. Compared to the county and the state of California, their receipts were slightly up. So Bradley Burns sales tax, it's broken out into these different categories, and I'll just highlight a few. State and county pools, which is our online sales tax, that makes up 25% of our sales tax, which is basically flat year over year. Second is auto and transportation, that was at 25%, and that is flat year over year. Then we go into building and construction at about 17%. That went down about 1% year over year. And then the next highest close to highest, fuel and service stations at 8.11, which also decreased year over year by 1%. We are very grateful for all of our businesses in the city, but especially grateful for the 25 sales tax producers. And the only change year over year is Taco Bell was added and Sierra Nevada was removed. And this is just comparing September 30th, 2025 versus last year.
There's a lot of tacos. When you can displace a person that sells tires with tacos, that is epic.
Okay, so Bradley Burns sales tax growth. So for the fiscal year of 24-25, sales tax was 6.1 million. What we're forecasting based on HDL's latest forecast is it to have a modest increase to 6.2, which would be a forecasted increase of $48,000 or nearly 1%. I will say that this is slightly under, even though there is an increase year over year, is slightly under what was budgeted for this revenue. As for our adopted operating budget, so we get our budget adopted in June, so June 2025. The budget total was 24.9 million. Of that was 11.2 million is to the general fund. And I just want to remind City Council that some of the assumptions that were made was that we froze the associate planner position, community services had a reorg, and we had no contingency. Some mid-year budget revisions. So City Council approved general fund expenditures totaling 107,267. Of that, 84,000 went to 3 CIP projects listed below, 4,800 for the Greater Sacramento Valley Leadership Academy, and 18,000 to support the MS4 permit. So this is a really helpful graph. When we look at our revised budget of $11 million, you know, where does this fall? So police takes up 34% or 34 cents on the dollar, followed by community service at 26 cents, and you can see the other departments. I also really enjoy this graph. It compares revenue and expenditures. You can, as I had mentioned, revenue, sales taxes are number one revenue generator at 56%. When you add police and community services, they make up 60% of our general fund expenditures. It's almost a wash. Then we also have other revenue sources, which I will dive into in future slides. So this shows you historically how we've been doing with our revenue and expenditures, again, focused on our general fund. We had a great 2020, 2021 through 22, 23. You can see that we had revenue outpaced expenditures. Then we had a planned deficit in 23, 24 because we had that extra revenue. And then we've been focused really tightly on getting our expenditures down by freezing positions and managing it very closely. I will thank all of the department heads for managing their budget very tightly. And so for 25, 26, we're looking at a very small deficit. Hey, general fund budget. So as I had mentioned, for revenues, our revised budget is $11 million. Good news, our forecast revenue is $11.1 million. So we are forecasting to come in 61,000 over budget in revenue, and I will let you know what's driving that on the next slide. For expenditures, we had a budget of 10.9 million, and we're forecasting that to come in under budget, so 10.7 with savings and expenditures of 188,000 or 1.72%. So you might be seeing this slide and saying, hey, if we have revenue of 11 million and expenditures under that, why do we have a deficit? The reason we have a deficit is due to net transfers out. And those were increasing with the City Council approved expenditures as well as anticipated general liability claims. So the net transfers out actually increased. But the real good news here is we had, for our revised budget for general fund, we were showing a $300,000 deficit, but with our increased in revenues and our great job managing expenditures, we're looking to decrease that to 178,000. So here are our revenue generators. We've got sales tax, like I said, makes up more than 50% of our revenue for the general fund. We are revising that down. So our budget was 6.24 million, and based off HDL's forecast, it's 6.21. So that is showing a negative revenue of 34,000. All other taxes include property tax, cannabis tax, TOT tax, utility tax, that's about flat. Good news with construction permits, we're showing a $48,000 revenue increase, has a lot to do with Middletown issuing and Sutter Ridge. Intergovernmental revenues, which is our motor vehicle in lieu, slightly up. Charges for services, up, and I could tell you what's driving that. Charges of services include like planning fees, rec program, cannabis permits, but what is actually driving that increase is engineering fees. So thank you, engineering, at $46,000 or 4.8%. Fines and forfeitures, those are down. What are fines and forfeitures? Those are vehicle code fines, parking citations, and DSD fines. What is driving the decrease from our revised budget to our forecast is really DSD fines. So the notices of noncompliance and the fines. For use of money and property, that is like interest, town hall rentals, pool rentals. That's just slightly down. In our other financing sources is like our overhead allocation to from the water and sewer. So at the end of the day, we're showing that we had a budget of $11 million in revenue. We're forecasting 11.1, which means 61,000 in increased revenue over budget. So it's positive. Okay, expenditures. So just going down the list, police, you're showing that we're going in under budget by 167,000 or 4.4%. I want to caution this. There was 2 positions that were vacant for 2 months, so there was savings there. But a lot of the savings is just due to the Measure J offset. At the end of the day, it'll be a wash depending on the sales tax we bring in for Measure J. I want to call out a couple other things. Development services is relatively within budget. There's savings on engineering, and that has to do primarily with the 2 open engineering positions. They're currently vacant. Community services is coming in at budget. Public works at budget, as well as city council with a little bit of savings. I also want to call out city administration. You can see that that's going over budget $84,000. That really has to do with attorney fees, legal fees, as well as a retiree of our city manager and cash outs. So that is why that department is going in over budget. Overall, another great story to tell. Like I said, all of the departments are managing their budgets very tightly, and we are forecasting to come in at $62,000 under our forecasted, our budget expenditures. So just wanted to call out that we are assuming pay-as-you-go costs for gas 75, which is which means we don't contribute for future retiree medical insurance costs. All of our costs assume the personnel salary and benefits that we had committed to. Where you saw the transfers increasing, that was general liability claim payments. We're anticipating at $119,000 hitting the general fund budget. But overall, great news. Deficit forecasted decrease from that $300,000 to $178, with largely due to a net increase in revenue of the $61K, primarily driven by building permits and engineering fees, and the decrease primarily driven due to unstaffed positions, including the 2 engineering positions and the accountant position that 100% hits the general fund budget. Okay, I just want to really quickly go over another big fund of ours, which is our Water Enterprise Fund. Overall revenue is within budget. We're actually looking to come in 18,000 over, and that's due to like capital improvements with the Sutter Ridge development. Expenditures right at budget, just under, which is great. The net transfer outs is the property insurance and liability insurance. Overall, you will see that with the net transfers out, we are at a deficit for the Water Enterprise Fund, but we're decreasing it from a $70,000 deficit to a $31,000 deficit. That just means that we aren't going to have water enterprise funds to fund projects. However, this does not include Measure L, and we anticipate bringing in $3 million for Measure L to fund those water projects as well as street projects. Sewer Enterprise Fund, you can see that our revenue is going to be pretty much coming into forecast, maybe just a little bit lower. But the big story to tell here is our expenditures are $350K lower than budgeted. And again, that is primarily due to vacant positions. We have a wharf operator position open. And when the lab director retired, there was a gap in transitioning to a lab tech, as well as we have a senior maintenance mechanic position open. So a lot of that savings is due to vacancies. And then you can see a significant net transfer in, because when you look at this, you say, hey, how could our revenue be 7.3 million and our expenditures be 7.8? How could we have a surplus? Well, that's because we have a net transfer in of Measure H, which is 1.4 million. But when you take out the 264K for property insurance and liabilities, it's a net transfer in of 1.1. So that is, and because of the savings with the vacant positions, we are growing that surplus from 645K to 988K. So that 988K, which is primarily Measure H, will help fund sewer projects for the remainder of the year. I'm not going to get into non-major funds. Like I said, the number one here is Measure L. The HDL is actually increasing their revenue forecast from 2.9 to 3 million. So that will fund those water projects for us, as well as street projects. Everything else is pretty much within budget. There is a $60,000 for the 1993 SDBG 698 grant. That's for to fund the associate planner and the open spaces update for planning. So where are we going to land? So total operating budget. So this is not just looking at the general fund, which I spent most of my time on. This is looking at our operating budget. So our revenue was budgeted for 28.4 million. We're forecasting 28.5. When you take into consider the general fund, sewer, water, and all the other little funds, we are expecting $135,000 additional revenue than what was budgeted for, and we are anticipating expenditures to decrease from our budget to forecast by 400,000. So revenues over expenditures would be 3.9 million. But please note that 3.9 million being forecasted in additional revenue is before commitments to capital improvement programs. Like I said, 900,000 of that's really Measure H, and 3 million of that is Measure L. So just in closing comments, City Council and management continue to operate the city in a prudent and responsible manner. We anticipate year-end operating revenue to exceed operating expenditures for most funds, and staff will provide additional updates to City Council at its budget workshop scheduled for April 30th and May 13th. And I'd like to open it up for questions.
Are there any questions from the council? All right, I will open this up to the public. Would any member of the public like to comment on this item?
Sue Rodman, and I'm concerned, but I am proud of our city for staying out of the debt trap that our county seems to be getting into, and a lot of other cities seem to be falling into a deficit trap that's going to be very difficult for them to get out of. So, good job, you guys.
Any other public comments? I see none. Any other comments from the council before we acknowledge and file and move on?
I would just like to say thank you to staff. Thank you, Natalie. I put undue pressure on you, and you performed admirably. So anyway, no, it's great. But it is concerning in the sense that some of these savings are because we're not filling positions up, and that's going to blow out our staff eventually. And so this is not something we can ignore. And we can't run budget surpluses at the expense of existing staff. And so it needs to be dealt with. But thank you all for the good work.
All right. We will move on to item 12.3. Consider establishing a public safety building committee comprised of 2 council members, the city manager, and the chief of police that would meet at least once per month and be tasked with evaluating options and providing recommendations to the city council for the development of a new public safety building. Chief Friend, Mr. Warren.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and of course our wonderful community. I'm Joe Wren, proud to be the Chief of Police here in Placerville. During our strategic planning meeting, the topic of the public safety building came up, and it was a desire of the council to form some sort of committee to help continue to drive that conversation forward and look for options to best serve the department and the community. You ask and you shall receive. Tonight before you is a consideration of establishing an ad hoc committee to comprised of 2 council members, city manager, and chief of police, and it would meet at least once per week and be tasked with evaluating options and providing recommendations to the council for the development of a new public safety building. The purpose of the committee is to provide focused governance, policy guidance, and consistent direction as the city evaluates long-term police facility needs. The current police facility has operational space and infrastructure limitations affecting efficiency, both evidence storage and processing, interview space, and overall service delivery. As the community grows and policing standards evolve, proactively planning for an updated facility is considered prudent. At this time, we're offering 4 options for the council to consider. The first, staff-only working group consisting just of city staff. Second would be the staff and city council member working group, which is recommended. Third option would be the staff, city council members, and city representatives. And the fourth is direct staff to take other actions. With that, I'll answer any questions that you have regarding this.
And I just have a couple things to add really quickly. Just so you know, options 2 and 3 would make whatever committee that you form a standing committee subject to the Brown Act. So it would require the posting of an agenda and notice. Under option 4, directing staff to take other action, this is if the council decides that it doesn't want to go and adopt options 1, 2, or 3, the mayor can, on her own accord, appoint an ad hoc committee consisting of 2 of the council members, and they would evaluate options and report back to the council at some point in the future. And that would not take council action. It would just be the mayor doing that.
I'm assuming that these 2 brave individuals would be able to bring in resources as needed, ad hocly?
So the ad hoc committee is free to meet with staff,
Right.
ask questions, investigate, and again, report back to the council.
Okay.
They just would not have established meetings, and of course, no other council member can participate.
Right.
All right, are there other questions from the council at this time? All right, I'm going to go ahead and let the public come up and comment on this item.
I believe, Sue Rodman again, I believe originally this whole public safety building was supposed to be for the police and fire. And I'm wondering why we don't see fire in this ad hoc committee. Because I think they need to be represented as well. And I do believe that if we're going to have a public safety building, there were a lot of reasons for combining police and fire, including a lot of the overhead positions and dispatch and record keeping that could be handled with fewer personnel than if you had to have separate police and fire. So if that's wrong, please correct me, but I think that we need to be sure that we have police, fire, and make sure that we are making sure that we have a public safety building that will support both. Because we all know our Station 26 is pretty overloaded, and one of the things was they have to pull the fire engine out across the sidewalk in order to wash it up, and that happens regularly. And the police department has one part of their building occupied by the fire truck that has a ladder with it. So where is the fire department in this proposal?
All right. Are there any other comments from the public? Right, I will bring it back up to here. It looks like Mr. Warren would like to make a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so at the last strategic plan review session back in February, we discussed our options for the public safety building, and we recognized that a lot of changes have happened since we first started this discussion. One is that the El Dorado County Fire Protection District is in a merger. They're just about done with Diamond Springs Fire District, and Diamond Springs has additional administrative space that would help and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, space for the overall, once they're merged, for the overall fire district. The other piece of it is we recognize that the bigger we make this project, the more difficult it is to execute. And that when there was a study done, feasibility study done, and the space that was actually shared was fairly minimal. So the benefit to both the district and the city was fairly in that particular scenario. And I want to say Tim has been great. We've talked about different options since I became city manager and what would be best for both agencies, and we're open to helping each other. Matter of fact, we're looking at property potentially for both, potentially both, or just for the city or just for the fire district. So we'll continue to help each other that way, and depending on how the council wants to move forward, we'll support that. So thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that the money we got from the state for that building, we need to spend by the end of next year. And that's kind of precipitating kind of some of this pushing for both the fire and the police. There are conversations about a potential other location for the fire department. These are very active conversations that are happening, and we're exploring.
All right. Would anybody here like to discuss any of these options?
I think I was the one who kind of brought it up at the thing we did in February, and my thought was that it would be less formal. Just so I think we should go with the ad hoc. And I'm willing to volunteer to be one of the people if anybody wants me to do this. But keep it informal, bring in resources as we need them, because it's gonna be a little bit of everything. As we discussed, we need some people that actually could eyeball construction, have city staff available to talk to us about that. And so my personal feeling is that we should go ad hoc and then kind of let it do its thing. My lawyer will say something else.
No. So if the question before you then is the council interested in pursuing one of the standing committee options? Because if so, then one of you should make a motion to advance that. And if not, then this agenda item remains stagnant and the mayor can decide whether or not she wants to do the ad hoc committee.
Okay, so I have
Move stagnation.
So option 1, staff-only working group, would that be a standing committee also?
Sorry, no, that one is not. That would just be staff working together. Staff is not subject to the Brown Act. Staff would come and provide periodic updates to the council.
I'm just kind of curious if we're at a point yet with some of what is transpiring with the merger and all that stuff. If we're at a point to even have an appointed, the mayor appointing an ad hoc committee, at that point, I mean, I'm almost thinking that we're probably kind of got to wait for maybe staff and what's going on with things to get a little more clarity before we start going that far. At least that's the way I think about it. I mean, I'm not opposed to having the ad hoc committee. I just kind of think that we might be a little early.
I guess, can I ask a question? So if we were to establish a staff-only working group, then at any point in time, I can establish an ad hoc committee?
That's correct. And you can do it contemporaneous as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll add on, I mean, I know that the intention of this was not to burden staff further, and so I'd be in favor of informality and not burdening staff with more Brown Act requirements, and so, that's where I would land on this argument also.
All right, so I guess I would like to table this item and take no action on it as it stands. And then I will appoint 2 council members to an ad hoc committee. Can I do that right now? You may. Okay. I will appoint Council Member Clarici and Vice Mayor No. Okay. And we will move on to item number...
Can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do we need to establish the option 1 for the staff-only working group also, or is that?
If there's a motion for it, you can do that.
Is it necessary is my question. If the ad hoc, they can ask for staff at any time. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
right.
wanted
We
more
can engage
clarification.
staff, which was kind of in my head in the first place.
I think it's just a way to keep this conversation, not make sure it doesn't get put on a shelf and we
Correct.
get to the end of next year and say, whoops, we lost $1 million.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. Understood. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
All right, great. No, it's fine. I had to make sure I wasn't going astray here. Item 12.4, consider accepting a public roadway and utilities easement on Thompson Way on the Placerville Union School District parcel APN 004-021-026, and authorizing the city engineer to sign a certificate of acceptance and record said easement, and record said easement, and authorizing staff to advertise plans, specifications, and contract documents for public bidding for Phase 2 of the construction of the Thompson Way repaving project, the Sheridan Street paving project, and the Sherman Street repaving project. Ms. Savage.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The City Council adopted the fiscal year 2021-2022 Capital Improvement Program budget, which created the Thompson Way and Sherman Street repaving projects. 2 years later, the Sheridan Street paving project was established. Since that time, the City Council approved an agreement for consulting services with Rick Engineering to perform the design of these projects, which include pavement rehabilitation and underground utility repair and replacement. Last year, the City Council approved the recommended approach to phase the construction of Thompson Way, Sheridan Street, and Sherman Street projects. The construction of Phase 1, which included underground utility repairs, was completed in 2025. Phase 2 was originally planned to only include pavement rehabilitation. However, during the construction of Phase 1, a previously unknown storm drain system was discovered and found to be in poor condition. Shocking, right? Due to this discovery, staff made the decision to include the storm drain maintenance work in Phase 2 to ensure a complete project that addresses all of the maintenance needs. And as mentioned previously, staff discovered that Sierra Elementary School sits on a large parcel, and we could not identify any public street right-of-way for Thompson Way, even though, for all intents and purposes, Thompson Way has been used as a public street connecting between Cedar Ravine Road and Washington Street for a long time. Staff is recommending to the City Council to accept a public roadway and utility easement to obtain the proper rights to own and maintain the street. The easement does not include the sidewalk on the frontage of Sierra School, as that will remain their responsibility to maintain. The school board is considering the approval of the easement at their meeting tomorrow, and after that, all of the documents will be executed and recorded. The draft construction bid documents for Phase 2 are complete, and staff is respectfully requesting authorization to advertise the final bid documents for public bidding after the right-of-way documents are complete. Staff intends to construct all 3 projects together and award 1 construction contract. We're really excited to bring this project to a conclusion this summer. I'm sure the residents felt a little bit let down last year after we were only able to do the underground utility work, so we're excited to finally come back and finish the paving. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the council? Would any member of the public like to comment on this item?
It's a good project, and the reason it was phased into two parts is so we could do the undergrounding while school was out during the summer and not impact the students during the school year, and then do the paving and apparently the storm drain now when it won't impact the students again this summer. So I think we've got a great engineering department, and they have really designed this well.
Great. Are there any other public comments? All right, I see none, so I'll bring it back to the council.
I'll move staff recommendation.
I will second that.
All right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to item number 13, council reports from other agency meetings, starting with El Dorado County Transit Authority.
Yeah, we did meet. We went over just a few basic items, changed some names of some job descriptions, reclassified the those positions, did a fiscal year 26-27 salary structure, salary schedule update, proposed fiscal year 26-27 preliminary operating budget, received and filed proposed fiscal year 2025-26 preliminary capital improvement plan. And then we got an update on the Bass Lake Road Park and Ride landscaping, which has been completed. And of course, a report out on the bus wrap art competition, which I believe Councilman Clarici attended.
I went to that, and it was very nice.
All right, El Dorado County Transportation Commission.
We were there. Okay, I'll try to remember. I didn't write it down. We got the quarterly CIP. They have that really nice document that tells you all the things they're doing. Lots of good stuff happening all over the county and in Placerville. So we got that. We got a legislative. They're putting together kind of a legislative master plan to go back. The federal highway bill is being reauthorized. It'll run out at the end of September. These things usually move about 5-year periods. And so they're looking at they're trying to read the tea leaves of what may come out of D.C. with the new highway bill. They're thinking there might be more locally focused money, less money going potentially to Caltrans, or not Caltrans, but going to Sacramento and then being spread out. There may be more earmarks and more money directed specifically to locations, which could be good. Could be bad. It depends on the location. You could see something better. So, and then I'm not sure what else there was. You weren't there.
All right.
Yeah, but it was a good meeting. Oh, we gave Woody a raise, and I want to congratulate our staff on the tenacious way they went after Caltrans District 2 on a fence. I had asked the previous commission meeting there's a fence that's kind of by Canal Street. There was a gate open, and you could see where people were going through the gate and then walking over the railroad bridge, and there was a bunch of trash on the railroad bridge. People took the trash away, which was very nice. Thank you very much. And so we put a lock on the gate, I think, but then they said it's not our fence because some of the fence had been knocked down. It's not our fence, it's your fence. No, it's not our fence, it's their fence. And then they wanted to give us some cheap fence, and we got back on them for that. So they are now in the process of coming up with a better plan. I basically told them not to make that woman angry and give us a better fence. So kudos to staff for holding the line with Caltrans and getting us a better fence, because the fence had fallen over, and it's ugly. So they're going to get that. Thank you.
All right, LAFCO,
We did not meet.
SACOG,
Next week.
Pioneer.
All right, we did meet. We did our committee assignments and mid-year budget adjustment, but the big news is that PG&E, in their infinite wisdom, is restructuring their bills starting this month. So they're doing what's called a base service charge, and so traditionally their fixed costs have been recovered through per kilowatt hour through their rates. They're now breaking off their fixed charges, and everybody is going to be getting, it's a new fee, but it's not an increase, but everybody's going to be paying a fixed, it's called the base service charge, it's a fixed charge for their fixed cost. And so the result of this is that low usage households are going to end up paying more because they're not paying their fixed costs in their rates, they're paying it as a fixed cost. So high users are going to save money, low-end users are going to end up paying more, but you will see that has nothing to do with Pioneer, but it does affect Pioneer customers. You'll start seeing that on your bill starting this month.
I was going to ask how that affects solar people then, because if they're I assume most solar people would be the low users.
Yeah, exactly. It has the effect of punishing people that have solar and don't use a lot of electricity. Every PG&E customer and Pioneer customer is going to have this fixed charge on their bill.
Well, that explains it. I just saw that I already have a true-up that I normally don't see this time of year, and
I think it's going to be somewhere in the range of, I want to say it's like $26, so it's not a huge thing. And it was something that you were paying in so their rates are going down. I think, don't quote me, but I want to say it was between 5 and 7 cents, and they're adding it as a fixed charge, and so that's how they're justifying it. But it's not supposed to cost us any more. It's supposed to be neutral revenue, but we'll see how that all works out.
Well, I just assume, like, I'm a solar person with a battery, so I don't use any. I use zero. But I'm still connected to the grid because they make me.
Correct.
I think I remember reading some of the report out for the Pioneer that it's all about a transparency issue that PG&E is now being required to put out there. So instead of hiding this fixed charge fee in your rate, they now have to show it as a fixed charge fee and what the difference in your rate is.
And it was all established through the PUC, so
Yeah.
Okay.
the PUC set the rates and the structure and everything.
All right. All right, Placerville Fire Safe Council. I attended that meeting. We got updates from the various local agencies, and the event here, everybody should go, is on May 2nd, and I think we're going to get an update at one of our future meetings. Opportunity Knocks?
Yes, we did meet in preparation for the upcoming closing of the Navigation Center, which is happening in March of 2027, in case anybody was wondering. They established 2 new working groups, a short-term group that's dealing with the immediate impacts of the closure and planning for how that's going to happen. And they also established a long-term group that's going to work more on like systemic-wide gaps and barriers for our local community. So that was the main thing that we did on that meeting.
All right. Would anybody like to comment on our meetings?
I would like to add one thing for the Fire Safe Council, is that we have an excellent person who will go and evaluate your property in order to see if there are things you can do to be more fire safe. And you can contact the county Fire Safe Council, and they will schedule that for you. But the Placerville Fire Safe Council has an excellent person who does a really good job and gives people a report and makes sure that they get a sign for their property so that the fire engine can find them. And he's been doing a great job, and people have really loved him. So that's something that somehow needs to get out to the public, to know that there is this service that the Fire Safe Councils are providing. And it's very helpful to people to know, okay, he'll come and look at your entire property. What are your defensible space needs? What are your home hardening needs? And let you know how to do this. But there is no charge to the person who gets this done. And gives them some really good information. And people who've had it done have come back to the Fire Safe Council and said, thank you very much, because it's been very useful. And that was covered in our meeting.
Yep. All right. Are there any other comments on the meetings? Great. Item 14, request for future agenda items. Anybody want to request a future agenda item? No. All right. Item number 15, city manager and staff reports. Are there anybody who wants to make a report?
We have none. Mayor, thank you.
Great. Item 16, upcoming items. That is, you can read that. And so it is 6:57 or 6:56, and I'm going to adjourn the meeting.